All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. And I will call the regular council meeting of Monday, September the 9th to order. There are no late items to my knowledge. There's an agenda in front of you. I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Randhawa, Councillor Adey. Any additions or deletions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to adopt the financial policy. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Skelton-Morven, Councillor Cunningham. Any discussion? Councillor Adey.
By way of explanation of the position I took, I'm not opposed to the logic of doing this. It's not actually my concern. My concern is there is no time provided for the public to absorb it, complain to us, praise us, whatever it is they'd like to do with it. So I guess my preference would be that we not decide tonight, that we decide in a month's time on this. And I'm absolutely willing to entertain the possibility that would be an affirmative vote anyway. I just feel like there needs to be a little bit of time for.
So that sounds like a motion to amend.
Sure.
All right. Is there a seconder to the motion to amend for a delay? Councillor Randhawa. Any discussion around the motion to amend? Councillor Skelton-Morven.
I think these are always a rock and a hard place. Probably for me, just more so just the getting these pieces in motion, because I know the work that goes into it behind the scenes. I'm always, whenever we have the picture and the information on the table, we look at these aspects, and a big part of this is remembering that, we were elected to do the people's work. That's part of it. And discussions like these, especially when it's an increase, I don't see there being a whole lot of folks really excited about the 2.5%. I again, of the 5 people that attend council meetings versus the hundreds that comment on Facebook, it's kind of a rock and a hard place for me. I'm not particularly in favor of just kicking the can down the road. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done, especially on the heels of other projects that'll be coming online. We have RBA, we have other aspects that are kind of offsetting some of these what would be disgruntled members of the public. Looking at this and again, from a lens that it's a policy and not a bylaw, and just looking at this and having that flexibility, I think, for staff to be able to work and do their best work, and having the room to do their best work is really important. So just my 2 cents on kicking it down the road versus just adopting as is, and because we still have that flexibility afterwards. If we need to strike it down year to year, it's not to say that is an automatic thing. It's something that we can still kind of pick and choose, and who knows, there may be years we need to increase or decrease or vice versa. There will be other options on the table.
Just before I go over to you, Councillor Cunningham, Dr. Buchan, is there any concern from a staff point of view of a delay?
Your Worship, no, I don't think that it's material. And speaking to the motion that is being considered, the corporate officer advises me that this would be a motion to table until the next meeting rather than to amend the motion.
You're right,
but it's not going to affect our current budget process, and tabling it until the next meeting doesn't. It simply puts the decision to that point.
Yeah, and I always get this mixed up, but in fact, and I would never argue with the corporate officer, but I think it's actually a motion to postpone to the next meeting. All right, thank you very much. Councillor Cunningham, go ahead.
First of all, there was no motion to table; it was just to amend. But that's irrelevant.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying is,
yeah,
I don't see where it doesn't matter if we wait a week, a month, 2 minutes. Every budget session, this will be discussed. The public will have their time at every budget meeting to discuss this. And if we get more than 4 or 5 people in here for a budget meeting, which we very seldom do, they can voice that opinion. But I don't see where waiting a month, to me, I don't care.
Yeah.
But, I don't see where waiting a month is going to change anything. Are we going to have a public meeting? Are we going to do anything? Why are we delaying it a month? That's my opinion. But at the same time, every year when we have a budget meeting, this will be brought up, and it's just a policy, and we can take it off the table at any time, any existing council, and that's why we have budget meetings for the public to come and express their concerns. And because this is only a policy and not a bylaw.
Okay. I know we'll go to you, Councillor Forster. I just for clarity, everybody in the room, we're backing it up. It's a motion to defer to the next meeting, of a regular council meeting. It's been moved by Councillor Adey. I assume it's still seconded by Councillor Rondella. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question, a procedural question that I'm hoping you can help me with.
Yes.
I'm fine with tabling it or voting on it right now, but my question is, let's say a member of the public wanted to bring a policy forward for council to review. What is the process for that to happen?
There isn't.
There really, Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, a member of public can write a policy proposal and send it in with a letter for council to consider on an agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That helps, because to me that clarifies, if we vote on this now, the public, if they did have a strong opinion on this decision, they do have an avenue to formally raise it.
Yep. Yeah, Councillor Dr. Buchan.
And Your Worship, and because the minutes will be on the next meeting, people can speak to the minutes on the next meeting as well.
There you go. Okay, so it would, if Councillor votes to defer to the next meeting, then members of the public could come and comment on it before the final vote is taken. Councillor Skelton-Moore.
I think for me, just looking at that, even that poses another question. Like maybe submit a resume into the city if they feel so. I'm never one to support the armchair governance, because there's so much nasty critique on social media for what we should be doing and not realizing what the actual iceberg is that we're dealing with. For me, I also think it's really important to support the professionals that are putting the recommendations forward. If this was complete ludicrous, I'm sure we would have that discussion. But I'm looking at this, and this just makes sense. This is just common sense business for me. I don't see what real benefit we'd have really kicking the can down the road. There might be a couple letters. There might be one. There might be two. There might be our frequent flyer who isn't here today for whatever reason. But looking at these pieces, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know. Are we pushing it to a public hearing, or I share the same concern as Councillor Cunningham.
Yep. All right. I think you've all expressed your opinion. Councillor Adey.
Oh, my microphone's still on. I think the benefit is that you get to say that you've given the public a chance to have comment. And I'm not suggesting a public meeting on the issue. I think it would require a level of orchestration that probably doesn't rise to. But what happens if you don't provide that opportunity is the public can say, I should have had a chance to say something. And what this does is it provides, albeit a minimal window of opportunity, we can then say that we gave it the time it takes for somebody who had strong feelings to register an opinion about it. And if I understand it correctly, it doesn't bear on the current budget process. There is no loss in leaving it for a month. And I do want to make clear also that this is not a point being made about the work that staff puts into it or the quality of the work that staff does. The quality is first rate as it consistently is, and I continue to think that on any number of levels, on any number of policies. I think that's not what it's about. It's about ensuring that we grant the public its right to express an opinion on what I think is, in some ways, we can say it's just a policy and it's just a guideline. We can also say that once you set that goalpost, I've had a conversation earlier today on this subject, and if we were to call it a consumer price index, adjustment, okay, where the 2.5% represents what it takes to maintain existing services. That language and that way of expressing it is pretty persuasive. And I think in reality that's the intent, which is why I'm not really particularly opposed to the policy itself. But I do think that we are here as representatives of the public, and I agree that that puts us in the position of occasionally making decisions. But I think when we can, and what I'm hearing is in this case we can, when we can, we should provide at least a window of opportunity for the public to form an opinion and express it if their feelings are strong.
All right. I think the case has been well made on both sides. All in favor of deferring? 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Passes.
With two opposed. All right.
We don't have these very often. I think that's a testament.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on to public comment period regarding any item on the agenda. Is there a member of the public who would like to speak to any item that's on the agenda? You can come forward at this time. Nobody's going to do that, so we'll move on. We have the consent agenda. There are minutes for your approval, the minutes of the regular council meeting of August 19th, the committee of the whole of August 19th, and the public hearing of August 19th. There's 2 reports, one from planning and development activity and one from the chief financial officer, which is the June variance report. There's correspondence, a lot of them actually around UBCM, but one from the city of Duncan with regards to a UBCM resolution on failure to appear. North Coast Regional District Board highlights, letter from Surrey Talk Radio defending local governance against centralization. Letter from the city of Mission with regards to infrastructure investment from Complete Communities. Letter from city of Campbell River, urgent request for provincial support in addressing homelessness. Letter from the city of Port Meadow, resolution to reform the farm property tax system. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adopt or to receive that the consent agenda be approved as requested. Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, just for clarity, can we recommend that the recommendation be amended to insert the words, to read as follows, that all items presented for approval
Yes.
on the consent agenda be approved as requested? Because
Yes.
there's some of these are only there for information.
Yes. All right. That all items on the consent agenda for approval be approved as requested. Okay. And so I have a motion to that effect. Councillor Randhawa, Councillor Adey. Any discussion? Anything you want to pull or draw attention to? Councillor Forrester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you went mute all of a sudden.
Sorry. I just wanted to flag for Monday, August 19th at 7 p.m. It has me listed as both in person and absent, and I was absent.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I actually highlighted that and didn't raise it. So thank you very much for raising that. So the minutes will be amended to show Councillor Forrester as only absent. And with that amendment, any other? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have reports. 7A is a report from the Director of Recreation Community Services with regards to BC Healthy Communities Age-Friendly Communities Funding application, with a recommendation that Council direct staff to apply to the BC Healthy Communities Age-Friendly Communities Fund for an age-friendly assessment to be conducted in concert with a recreation master plan in 2025-26. Can I have a motion? Councillor Skelton-Morvan, Councillor Cunningham. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, Councillor Randhawa.
So this one fund for just for the planning, and then once that
Correct.
plan we make, then we go for that. Like where we get the next funding from there.
So unknown at this point in time, I believe, Dr. Buchan, but at this point in time, it's for a planning exercise, correct?
That's right, and it's contingent on us getting funding for a recreation master plan.
Right. So if we don't get the money for the recreation master plan, we don't proceed with the other. All right. Any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Report from the Director of Recreation Community Services with regards to New Horizon funding application that Council directs staff to apply to the New Horizon for Seniors Fund from Economic and Social Development Canada of $25,000 for new, accessible, and inclusive fitness equipment for the Civic Center. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Skelton Morven and Cunningham. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from planning with regards to 721 La Botaniere Street. Go ahead.
Lot-Benier.
Thank you. I you know what? I should have practiced that all week, but I didn't. Lot-Benier Street. With a recommendation that council proceeds with the final approval for the development variance permit DVP 2407 for 721 Lot-Benier Street. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Skelton Morven, is there a seconder? I'm calling a second time for a seconder. Councillor Forrester, is that a second?
I will second it for the discussion, yes.
All right. So it's moved and seconded. Any discussion? I suspect there is. But Councillor Adie.
I think that it came up. It was articulated in the last time we considered this, and it carried through anyway. But I think it warrants a discussion. That this is one of those cases where the work has been done in advance of the permission to do it, and at some point we need, I think, to come to terms with how we respond to that in a definitive way that not only treats this particular instance fairly, but also puts us in a position where we can be consistent moving forward. So it seems to me that there's three possible positions one could take, and maybe I'm just only thinking of three, and there's others that are out there. But one is that you kind of shrug your shoulders and say, well, this one got through, we'll let it go. Another is that you say, well, this was not permitted work and it needs to be rescinded or taken back to its original state. And the third, which is more of the middle ground, is, and I understand that there may be information that can be brought into the discussion on this regarding possible penalties that a property owner might face for doing work that is not yet permitted. So I think those are the three options. I think that what I'm suggesting is that we need to talk about this and see where we stand on it. It's my opinion that for every citizen who, and this is most of them, who spends $100 or so on a permit, they're participating in a process that needs to have credibility. And I think what we decide to do with this has some significance in terms of supporting that credibility.
Dr. Buchan, any comment you want to make, but in particular, I want to understand to Councillor Adie's point of view, and I think you mentioned last time that there was some penalty applied to this. What is the penalty that is applied?
Double permit? Yeah, I'll ask Director Pope to speak to that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For a violation of the building bylaw, a double permit fee is applied when they come in and get their building permit. So essentially the fee that they would pay otherwise doubled. And so that's generally the violation of the building bylaw. There are other penalties that can be enforced through our municipal ticketing information bylaw as well. In this case, the double fee for the building permit was already enforced.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the order of magnitude of that on that kind of project? I mean, you don't have to give me the exact number, but is it a couple $100s?
I believe it is in that range. However, I can bring that away and bring
Yeah,
the
no,
actual
no,
numbers to you.
yeah, that's helpful. Okay, Councillor Cunningham, and then I think Councillor Randhawa.
I think just doubling the building permit fee is irrelevant. You know, if I want to do something, I'll just go ahead and do it knowing it's going to cost me dick all. You know, and this is being repeated over and over again. This is a minor one compared to some of the ones we've passed in the past. You know, with, you know, houses infringing on setbacks, houses over the height variance and things like this, and then coming back to us. I think if we're going to address this in any way, we've got to come up with fines that have teeth and make people think twice about doing it. Everyone knows that you have to get a building permit. You know, that incident, it just happened last week when I took out a building permit to do some windows, and the place next door went and did their windows, and the building inspector happened to show up and say, when the guy came around, says, do you have a building permit? No, I was just going to go down and get it. The job's already done. It's BS. You know, people are doing it and knowing that, oh, $100, big deal. You know, we've got to start holding the line on this stuff. It's just, it's getting out of control, and these are the ones we catch, not the ones we don't catch. You know, there's weekend contractors, you know, they just come out of the woodwork, and you drive around town and there seems to be a lot of saws and hammers going on the weekend. I know some people are just doing their own jobs, but, you know, I see a lot of contractors working too. And, you know, I'm not going to run around and ask if they have permits, but it makes me wonder sometimes, and I see it over and over again. It's, you know, and it's a pittance what you got to pay to get a permit. So if we're going to do something about this, we've got to say, okay, first offense, X number of dollars. Second offense, X number of dollars. You know, like we've just got to stop it. It's out of control.
Dr. Buchan, what are the tools that might be available to council?
Municipal a ticket for bylaw infraction. If that's just off the top of my head. If council wants to explore this more thoroughly in terms of available penalties now and penalties that could be used, at least for future issues, I would recommend that council ask staff to bring a report back on enforcement options.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
I would like to put forth a motion that we ask staff.
Let's deal with this motion. I'm with you. Well, let's deal with this one. Councillor Randhawa.
So just want some knowledge on this one. So let's say somebody build garage or sun deck like over on weekend, and then they come for the variance permit, right? So then we pass that one, right? Like, okay, let's go, right? So what's the liability for the city then? Because it's not properly done, right? Inspector never inspect there, like if it's gone to the right all the way to the rock, right? So in that case, like, and then something happened, we passed that one, and something happened to that building, right? So what's our liability then, our city liability?
It's a great question, Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, if somebody did some work and asked for permission later, and council gave permission to do the work, they would still have to have inspections to make sure that the work is compliant with the relevant codes, which could mean that all the work that they did had to be redone. So saying yes, you can have a variance does not mean that the work that you've done is still permittable. I think that's one way of looking at this. Perhaps Dr. Pope has some other thoughts.
If I can maybe tease that out with you, I do an addition. I need a variance. You give me the variance, but now I still need the building permit. Addition's done. building inspector can come to my house and have me remove the drywall so they can see whether the insulation or the
Exactly.
wiring or the plumbing or the whatever they need to do to address Councilor Randhawa's question.
Yeah, whatever inspections are required per building code still need to be done before there's a final occupancy.
Thank you. That's helpful. Councilor, did that answer? Are there any, Councilor Cunningham?
Well, my comment is, if you're going to build a deck or do anything, you know ahead of time before the weekend comes you're going to do it. You've got to buy the materials. You've got to have a plan and things like this. So if you need a variance, that's fine. It's a different step. But just to build something, there's a whole, you just go get a building permit, and then that's when the building inspector can say, yeah, you can go ahead and do it, or wait a minute, you might have to get a variance. They're the ones that are going to decide how that goes. Like, I'm going to build a deck, and we've seen this where they build a deck and it comes right out to the property line. Well, they need a variance for that. And, this is where planning and building inspectors have to pretty well work together on stuff like that. And if somebody just goes out and does it and then asks for forgiveness after, we've got to put a stop to it. And I think this is, this is where we put our foot down.
Okay, so we are kind of dealing with two subjects at the same time, clearly interlinked, right? One is, how I think everybody listening should be really, really clear that to a person on this council, we want the processes that have been set up by the City of Prince Rupert to be followed by all residents. And we are prepared to put teeth behind whatever initiative. That yet to be seen. But I've heard individually from every member of this council that the notion of people just going ahead and doing whatever they want without building permits, without variance permits. The second thing I would add is that I have found in my own personal life that I've gotten more value out of the building inspection process than I paid for. I found that the bits of advice that I got from the building inspector in the end, saved me money, but also made the project so much better. And because these are people that are trained in what they do. And so to anybody that's listening that's hesitant to pull out a building permit, I just ask you why. Because you're denying yourself a great resource that can be incredibly helpful. But anyway, that all set aside, we are dealing very specifically with this variance. And it has been moved and seconded. Councillor, is there any further discussion on this variance? All in favor of approving the variance? Those opposed? Councillor Cunningham, did you indicate when we were there?
Let this one go.
Okay, so you're approving?
Yeah,
so
I'm approving as well. Yeah.
And I've got 1, 2, 3 approving, 1, 2, 3 opposed. It fails. Okay. Thank you very much, Director Pope. Now, Councillor Cunningham, I think you wanted to make a motion.
That we ask staff to come back with.
Can you turn your microphone on, please?
That we our recommendation that we get staff to come back to council with some recommendations on further fines or procedures to deal with these.
Yep. Okay. Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor Forrester. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you very much, Council. All right, report from planning with regards to 921 Prince Rupert Boulevard with a recommendation that Council proceeds with the consideration and final approval of the temporary use permit 2401 for 921 Prince Rupert Boulevard. Can I have a motion, please? Councillors Skelton, Morvan, and Cunningham. Any discussion? Councillor Adey.
Just a question, or maybe a two-part question. I understand that part of the process of bringing this to us involves some form of notification. So because it's the thing that I do sometimes, I'm curious about whether there was any response when that notification was offered.
Director Miller.
Thank you for that surprise question. Yes, there was notification provided, and no, I have not received any comments or concerns with respect to this application.
Councillor 80. That's it? That's fine. Excellent. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from the Chief Financial Officer with regards to Community Works Fund. A recommendation that Council enter into the Community Works Fund agreement with the Union of BC Municipalities for the period of April 1st to 2024 through to March 31st, 2034, so 10 years, and authorize the Mayor and the Corporate Officer to sign the agreement. Motion, please. Councillors Skelter. I'm going this way. I keep looking that way first. Councillors Randawa on 80. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Council, it's your turn. Any comments from Council? Councillor 80.
I just wanted to acknowledge the Can Trail Society. On Saturday, they had an event, which was the official opening of the Cloudberry Trail. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend and offer a few words, but I'd like to repeat my commendation of that achievement and the people behind it here. When we talk about the trail system, it's one of those. The city is very busy doing very unglamorous and very expensive work with pipes. And the reality of our circumstance is that in order to have some of the nice to have things come along that improve our quality of life, it requires the spirit of volunteerism that I think is exemplified by the Can Trail Society here. As they would be fully prepared to admit, it's the beginning of a project in the sense that it arrives kilometer up the road at a sign that says this is the temporary end to the trail. It's a vision for what follows that I think is extremely exciting. I think it would be fabulous once the whole thing is realized. And I just want to commend, I won't name them by name, but all of the people that have been involved in the Can Trail Society on the success of this achievement and their doggedly persistent pursuit of the vision that follows. I wish them all the very best.
I concur. Sorry, is that?
Yeah.
Councillor Cunningham.
Okay, on the same note, I'll point out that Chantal Magason and her group of volunteers are constantly all asking for volunteers and cleaning up different parts of the city and doing a fantastic job. And they fly under the radar quite a bit too. We got to appreciate it. Be getting a few questions about the roundabout.
Yes.
What's happening with it and that. So that's one question I have. The other question is, a while back we passed rezoning for the old police station on 2nd Avenue for temporary and full-time apartments. And since then, just about every window in the building's been broken. The front ones have been plywooded up, and I see no activity whatsoever there. And I just wonder if we shouldn't have somebody taking a look at that building. It's pretty sad looking, and it's on the main highway. Yeah. The other thing is, and I've been noticing it, and I've had lots of people speak to it, and I have personally done cleanups down in McCloyman Park, and I'm finding plastic bags full of dog.
Yeah.
And just thrown in the bushes. Why are people picking up the dog crap and putting it in a plastic bag and then throwing it in the bushes? I know their excuse, even in the dog park, there's not enough receptacles and things like this, but we're talking about these beautiful trails, and you're walking down the trail, and right in the middle of it's a pile of dog crap. And then not only that, down the waterfront on 3rd Avenue, it's just getting ridiculous. And more and more people I saw on Facebook, as Councillor Morvan's talking about, tied to a post.
I know.
And things like this. It's like, do we need more receptacles on the trails? And if so, how many? or what? I don't know. Like when I went down to McCloyment Park, I picked up around 15 bags. I had one of the pickers, and I was picking them up and putting them in a garbage bag because we were just going for a walk. The wife and we filled up a garbage bag full of crap. And to me, it's ridiculous. I don't know what the answer is, but
the answer is a challenging one, right? Because we're certainly not going to be sending bylaw inspection officers on every trail always so that we can catch every dog owner that violates it. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. Why on earth would you wrap your dog's excrement in a plastic bag and then throw it in the woods so that it can last longer?
It's a monument to their stupidity. You can't fix stupid.
And I was having a conversation with Deputy City Manager Pucci, and he was telling me every time we put out those plastic bags, in the things, they're gone. Not one at a time, gone. Like people can't afford to. Anyway, it all drives me crazy. I guess in essence, we call on every dog owner to be a responsible dog owner. In my mind, it's just part of if you're going to be in care of an animal, you look after the animal. All right, but I'm going to back up. I'm sure that Director Miller has taken down your concern about the RCMP, the former RCMP substation, and I agree with you. It is an eyesore. And Dr. Buchan, I'd ask if you have any update on the roundabout.
Your Worship, I don't, but Deputy City Manager Pucci might.
DCM Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the Mayor, yes, so the last discussion we had with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure was that they're moving through their challenges in getting the property, the one property, and they are about a year behind. So they were supposed to start construction in February of 2024. It looks like it'll be February of 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Randhawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The schools are back in, and zone speeds are back on too. But our school signs, like school speed signs, are hiding behind branches. So I'm wondering if we have any plan to clean those branches and so people can see the school zone signs from back on Sloan Avenue, on Drake Crescent.
Sorry, the branches?
Yeah, like tree branches, right? Hiding those.
Oh, hiding the actual signs.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Buchan.
We will follow up with that this week.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for raising that. Any other? Of course, you know that we started and some of you were there. We started the big project. I mean, it's been underway, but did a launch so that people can see. Because as I'm sure you are, I'm often asked, when does it start? It's well underway. Is the answer? It's well underway and coming to a neighborhood near you, maybe before you actually want it to. So I encourage people to follow the city website. You can get the city app. It'll keep you up to date. I noticed that tomorrow they're going to be doing Appleway, I think was the notification that came today. And so we are going to be going through a tremendous amount of construction over the next 3 years. And the route that you took to work today may not be the route you can take to work tomorrow. It's just going to be that quick. And so I encourage people to get into the habit of sort of checking. The app is really wonderful because you get a notification that says, hey, this block is going to be closed and whatever. Councillor Adey.
You've reminded me of a conversation I had with somebody with regard to the work that's being done and will be done. It is going to be disruptive, and people are going to have their streets torn up, and there's going to be gravel. I think particularly in the interests of those locations where the tearing up of the street happens in the fall after the paving season is over. They're likely going to face that circumstance for 6 or 7 months before paving happens.
Yes.
So I guess my question or my desire would be that there be some diligence paid to kind of every couple of weeks going to those locations and doing what you can to fill the emerging potholes, because they can get quite serious. And when people's vehicles get damaged because of it, it doesn't add to the ambiance in the room, if I might put it that way. So
Yeah.
I'd like to think that we have a regular plan for doing what we can to maintain the quality of those locations.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And Dr. Biden, I'll go to DCM Pucci. I know that it's a frustration for staff because they will go and prepare that road, and then a day later, potholes emerge. But go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, correct. We do have a plan moving forward with that.
Sound has cut out for me.
Councillor, can you hear me now?
Can you hear Councillor Forster?
Hello, can you hear me, Councillor? Okay.
Can you hear anything, Councillor Forster? No?
How about now?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. DCM Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so there is a plan as part of the project. There will be regular maintenance that happens on the open streets that will be maintained as gravel. So that's part of the project. And we do weekly pothole repair. It's just, it's really hard to keep up with all of the areas, and our crews are out there daily, and they have their routes, but they seem to pop up faster than we can fill them at this point. Thank you.
Good. Anything else, Council? Councillor Forster.
Thanks. I've had a few people in the community reach out to me with our emergency having intermittent service disruptions and needing to travel to Terrace for medical services at night when those service interruptions have happened. I'm wondering if we are able as a city to advocate for additional bus routes of the Northern Health Bus. If somebody takes an ambulance to Terrace to access medical services, they're left without a way of getting back other than having someone from their family come to get them or other options. And so I know in other jurisdictions where there have been service interruptions, increased buses have been done. And I'm wondering if we could advocate on behalf of the citizens of our community for increased bus services during the times that there's service interruptions, so people aren't waiting until a day or so later in order to get home.
Absolutely. Two opportunities obviously come to mind. One is UBCM, but also I happen to be one of 3 elected officials across the north that sits on the advisory to the Northern Health Bus, and so I might be able to raise that too.
Perfect, thanks. I know when service interruptions have happened on Haida Gwaii, they've increased travel between the two towns, but then people could get home.
Yep.
And it's something I saw on social media happening this weekend to a young family without the funds to get home.
Yep. No, it's a good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ultimately, and for the sake of the community, council's well aware, but we continue to work very closely with Northern Health around recruitment and retention. We've got a task force that is led by Councillor Adey and a counterpart from Northern Health. Councillor Cunningham's very involved in that work as well, and we've had some success in rolling out the red carpet for people that are that Northern Health is trying to recruit, but there's a whole lot more work to do. And but as much as as council can with the initiatives with the mandate that we have, we're working very closely with Northern Health to try to solve the problem in the long run. And one of the opportunities we have at UBCM is a meeting with Minister Dix, and so we'll want to take that opportunity. Councillor Cunningham.
On the transport for Northern Health, we've been advocating through the regional district and other things for that for quite a while, and it has improved, but with the closures of ER and that, Councillor Forrester brings up a good point. You know, not only is it just closures the ER, but people traveling down to Vancouver on a medevac are just released from the hospital down there, and they're on their own.
Yeah.
And some of them gone down there in their house coat.
Yeah.
You know, it's this has been brought up over and over again, and it hasn't really improved that much. It's improved somewhat, but still, you know, I guess, you know, you're not going to get the Northern Health bus, the big bus, but even a handy dart going back and forth or something like that but then, you know, like it's an 8-hour closure. Does the bus go down and come back at the end of the closure or halfway through it, or how many trips does it make? These are things that we would have to take a look at, I think, to determine. It's just like a lot of people going down to Terrace for medical appointments, and they can go down, but they can't get back.
Yeah.
And, you know, we brought this up with ophthalmology and other things like that, Councillor Forrester, and they have been talking about this for years, and we've got some success, but trust me, it's like running into a wall sometimes. And it's something that I think Mayor Pond has hit the nail on the head with is at UBCM. Maybe we should, the rural communities as a whole should get together and start demanding something a little better than what we've got. I don't think it's just us that suffers from this, but a lot of rural communities.
Yeah, the mayor of Lillooet has called a special session with mayors, specifically mayors from rural communities, to talk around the issue of ER closures, and I'm sure there'll be other opportunities that come up as well. All right, if there's nothing else, Council, a motion to adjourn. Councillor Adey, Councillor Randhawa, all in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Council, I encourage you to just stick around for a couple of minutes. I want to just go over very briefly the schedule for UBCM. Just workshop that just a little bit with staff before we head. Thank you.